Janey's been alcohol-free for 2 years. She's a Radio 1 DJ, founder of the community Sober Club, and has a weekly podcast, Alcohol-Free Life, which is celebrating 1 year this month. She's also a singer. Don't know if we're getting any of that today. An author and a television presenter. So please give a warm round of applause to Janey.
Thanks very much. It's Radio 2, but no worries. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming. There's lots going on, so I appreciate it. And I'm going to check my notes because otherwise, as some of you probably know, I can talk for England, so I want to finish on time. So just for anyone who doesn't know my story, just very briefly, I mean, I've spoken about it a lot, but just very briefly, I was one of those people who didn't have a rock bottom, so we don't have any fabulously terrible stories. I was what's known as high-bottomed. Oh, how I wish. And so you would never have known if I hadn't told you that there was an issue. And we now know that those kinds of people, like me, are called grey area drinkers because we're kind of told in this country that we were brainwashed, if you like, into thinking that there's the two types of drinkers. There's those who are at rock bottom, who clearly need alcohol services and support. And then there's absolutely everybody else. Happy social drinkers who just can't hold their beer. But in fact, it's a whole spectrum of grey area drinkers. And as I said in my TEDx talk, at least 50 shades of grey and none of them sexy. So that was me. I was very much a grey area drinker. And I knew, because I was waking up at 3 a.m. pretty much every day, hating myself and asking what the hell is going on, because I kind of work in natural health and well-being. I spend my life talking to people about ditching chemicals and living holistically and eating good food and all of that mindset stuff. And yet there I was pouring wine on my head, every day. And something wasn't right. It was not authentic. And I knew it wasn't authentic. So finally I addressed it. And what changed that time was that I was able to find the joy in sobriety. I've said many times, to quote Catherine Gray, I found the unexpected joy of being sober. And that was what changed. I'd stopped drinking before, but I had never before caught sight of this whole other world and how amazing it can be. But one thing that I found soon after I had stayed stopped, if you like. So when I was a few weeks and a few months in, was that the whole world started to open up and other layers started to be uncovered. And what I mean by that is when we've been drinking for years and years, some people start drinking in their teens, right? So when you stop as an adult, you're not even really quite sure who you are. Like, who is the real me? What do I even like? What kind of a person I am? And what's really interesting is these layers start to become uncovered. And over time, we can find that we start to care about what we eat. We start to care about whether we're fit or not and what job we do and, our career, or whether we should start a business, or should we start a charity? Should we change relationships? That can be a big one for a lot of people. And things do shift and shape. Now, the really good news is that you become much more resilient and much more open to change. So there's that lovely phrase, alcohol steals your joy, but being sober makes you brave. But along the path, I believe, you have to take care of yourself. And many people who have been drinking for years don't know how to take care of themselves. I mean, they really don't. And particularly, people that I look back and I think, was I good at self-care? I used to think I was, but my idea of self-care was popping round to a local wine bar and having 3 or 4 glasses of Sauvignon, reading a book. I thought that was my treat. Yeah, so I really didn't actually know what to do when I stopped. I also now know that the early weeks of ditching the booze are really, really tough, not just emotionally, but physically. And by that, I mean, most of us have kind of brain chemistry that's completely out of whack, and we don't even realize. So I think self-care, I know it's a buzzword and it's a bit woo-woo, but you can call it whatever you want. Basically, it's being kind to yourself is really, really important. So I now have a podcast, as Nick said, Alcohol-Free Life, and I get to interview amazing people. But I also now run a kind of online community called the Sober Club. I've got a few members here. Yay. And I kind of open that up to everyone, whatever stage they're at. And sometimes people say, well, how can that work then? Because if someone's on day one of stopping drinking, or someone is, we have members in the club who are 4 years, 5 years sober, how can that work? And the answer is because what we're focusing on is what's next. Where we know we want to ditch the booze, or we have ditched the booze, but what's next? What's opening up for us in our lives? And always it comes back to, how kind are we to ourselves? And what are our self-care strategies, if you like, that we put in place? Because the other thing, sorry, I'm rambling already, aren't I? I'm off on a tangent already. But it's important to say that the other thing I've really noticed is that when we're drinking, we're not necessarily that emotionally mature, unless that's just me. Because if you do start drinking as a teenager, all of the big life experiences that you've had under the haze of booze, all of them. So when you are faced with stuff and you're not drinking anymore, you have to deal with it head on. We can't numb anything out anymore. So we have to face it. And sometimes you've got to kind of learn new skills as to how to get in touch with what's really going on emotionally. Anyways, I thought that I would whiz through a few self-care strategies and then give you a few tips for creating your sober toolkit for self-care. And obviously this works, whatever stage you're at, of course. So when we think of the word self-care, people tend to think, oh, that means booking a spa day or, buying myself some flowers. And they're absolutely fine. But I think there's way more than that when it comes to self-care. So I jotted down a few ideas and then I'm going to let you shout a few out. So a few things that are great self-care. Walking in nature, that's always a good one. Listening to podcasts, and there are loads of amazing alcohol-free or sober podcasts. Listening to music, watching a film, drinking your favourite tea, or other amazing alcohol-free drinks. Cooking, doing something different, stepping out of your comfort zone. One of our Sober Club members said that she'd been to a glow-in-the-dark golf with her kids. How cool is that? See, I would never have even thought about that when I was drinking. So where am I going to get the wine? But that sounds fun. Having a lie down, there's self-care, putting your PJs on. Who knew the joys of sleep? Yoga, decluttering, creating a vision board. Scrapbooking, knitting, gardening, making a healthy juice or a smoothie, ice skating, dancing, booking yourself onto a retreat, having a cacao ceremony, going to a gong bath, having a therapeutic treatment, singing, playing board games, saying no. That's a really big act of self-care. And I'm so proud of myself because I said no to something this week that otherwise I would just thought, oh, God, I better say, I better. But I said no. Buying yourself a really good notebook is definitely an act of self-care. Journaling, writing stuff down, can be amazing. Buying new pajamas, I said that, and a snuggly hat or socks. And as Catherine Gray would add, the second time I've mentioned Catherine, she's getting a good plug. She has a great new book called The Unexpected Joy of the Ordinary. And she has a few lovely tips in there, like making yourself a coffee in a cafetiere and then really enjoying the sound of it plunging. Anyone got any other self-care tips? Or self-care things that they do? Have a bath. Of course, absolutely have a bath. Essential oils in your bath, perfect. Anything else? Cooking a meal from scratch. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So many people find that, including me, that once they've ditched the booze, they can find space for things like mindfulness and meditation. This is the irony for me. Even though for years, I'm a Hay House author, so I, for years, have been talking about mindfulness and meditation. I've interviewed just about every guru there is, and there isn't anything I don't know about it. But did I practice it? Did I hell? Did I love myself? Don't be ridiculous. I just used to talk about it because there wasn't space for it. Because drinking, as we all know, completely lowers your vibration. So it makes it really very difficult to do anything like that. So I used to try and meditate, and all that actually happened was a bunch of shopping lists would come in my head, and I'd tick all of those off, and then think, oh, hell, God, I'm still only at 10 minutes, for God's sake, and give up. But you're absolutely right. Lots of people find that they can attempt that. There's space for that. Anything else? Any other? Yes, I love that. Getting up an hour earlier than usual. That is a fantastic one. And the top tip for that is before you go to bed, whatever time you go to bed, actually say to yourself, say out loud if you like, I will wake up feeling refreshed. And you'll be amazed how that works. Most of us start to go off to sleep thinking, oh, for crying out loud, I'm up in 6 hours, what the hell? And so we wake up feeling like that. But if you actually say, I will wake up feeling refreshed, it's amazing how you do. Yes? Yes, definitely. Loads of people start to find they change their career. And it's a big thing, getting sober. Talk about life changing. Anything else? Yeah? Yeah. Definitely. You get so much more clarity about what it is you want to do. Yeah? Running. Yeah. I'm not very good at running. Exercise generally. Exercise, yeah. She said exercise running is horrible, but it's also good. I tried running once. I got one of those couch to 5K at things, and off I go down the canal. I'm so proud of myself. And, I've got Joe Wiley in my head, and I go off. I get less than half a mile, trip and fall, come home bleeding and depressed. The kids are like, well, that went well. One day I'll try again. Anyways, so you get the idea. I didn't even mention art galleries and all of that. Being kind, listening. I mean, listen to my podcast if you get an opportunity with Dr. David Hamilton, or read his book, Why Kindness is Good for You. I reckon that if you're with someone who is anxious, depressed, to the extent that they can't do anything for themselves, I don't know if you know anyone or if you've ever been in that state where actually you feel everything feels so terrible, you don't really want to do anything for yourself. So when you're in that state, you do something for somebody else, however tiny and however small, and it makes a massive difference. And science shows that when you're kind to someone else, just a small act of kindness to someone else, obviously they get an amazing benefit because you've been kind to them, but interestingly, you get more benefit. It's proven scientifically that doing that little act of kindness for someone else gives you more benefit than they do. Right, sober toolkit time. I told you I'd ramble on and I'm going to miss all of my time. So here's what we need to do for your little sober toolkit. You need to include something physical, okay? And by that, I mean actually physical, like a really great notebook, a pen. You will need to complete your gratitude list. Really recommend that, at least 3 things every day. Journaling is amazing. If you haven't already, check out Julia Cameron, author of The Artist's Way. She suggests doing 3, what she calls morning pages. 3 pages, stream of consciousness stuff, just get it all out there. It's amazing. I looked back at the stuff I'd written when I was first ditching the booze. God, I was such a grumpy cow. But I'm glad I got it out. Obviously, alcohol-free drinks, something nice, whatever it is you want. That's easy with going over there. Carrying snacks that you like. So, if you get your sugar head on because you've ditched the booze, so be it, but make it something healthy. Put some dates in the freezer because they taste a bit like chocolate when you take them out. And obviously 70% cacao and all of that stuff. But what I do want to stress on the physical thing is the importance of good nutrition. Everybody forgets when they first ditch the booze that you have to eat. Okay? You have to eat. You're not ditching food as well. And you need to eat 3 times a day, and you need protein with every meal. This stuff is so basic. I completely forgot. And no wonder I felt like hell. It's so important for your brain chemistry. Highly likely you're going to be lacking in dopamine, serotonin, and GABA. So you can put some of these back through food. You might want to see a nutritionist and think about supplementing, but at the very least, get really good real food in. 3 times a day, protein with every meal. And you may want, by the way, check your vitamin D levels. That's really important. That's a story for another time. And you may want a physical representation of the money you've saved. That's physical. So you might have one of those sober apps that tell you that you've saved thousands of pounds, which is fantastic. But get a vase or a jar made of glass, put it on your desk or by your bed or whatever, and put actual cash in it. So I know that I would have gone round to the wine bar and spent at least £10. If I put that tenner in the jar, man, that mounts up. And then you can reallocate it. People talk about saving money when you're sober. You don't save money, but you reallocate the money to something that actually really is a treat. Okay, something inspirational. Now, this is going to make a very, very big difference to whether you decide to stay alcohol-free or with your plan or not. Emotions, not logic, inspire action. And what do I mean by that? You need the logic. You need to be told alcohol is really bad for you. You need to read This Naked Mind and Alan Carr's book and the great new book by Professor David Nutt called Drink. And you need to read those books. They're really, really important. You need to know all the facts, know that alcohol is the most harmful drug, and there is no safe level. So you need to know that. However, that is not going to stop you when you're having a shit day. It's really not. Emotions, not logic, will inspire your action. So know all the stuff logically, but then find your reasons why you kind of start to build up bright spots, fabulous times when you're not drinking. And so the inspiration is really important. The Quitlet that there is over there is really, really important. Books like Claire Pooley, The Sober Diaries, Unexpected Joy of Being Sober, I could go on. The inspirational books and the podcasts. Listen to some of my podcasts. Though I say so myself, I've got some unbelievably inspirational guests who will really, really inspire you. Meditation, as has already been mentioned, or hypnosis audios. When you join the Sober Club, you get a little free hypnosis audio, so you've got a kind of guided visualization. So wherever you are with that, it's worth trying it. If you're new to something like meditation or hypnosis, just set your phone timer for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Anyone can do 5 minutes, and it's a start. And anything that you can do in terms of relaxation that takes your mind away from that monkey chatter that we all have all of the time. And something social. We know that phrase, the opposite of addiction is connection. And it really, really is. And that was the other thing I did wrong. I told no one for the first 3 months, which was really stupid. I could have made it so much easier for myself. It's all about forming new habits and seeing other people that bit ahead of you. So the connection is absolutely everything. We had one Sober Club member who was at an airport, and she posted on the group and said, I've been sober for however many months, but I'm at this airport, I'm doing a long-haul flight going to Australia, and I just want a drink. There's a lounge there, and I want a drink, and how am I going to do this flight? Because I really want a drink. But I don't want a drink, so what am I going to... it was all these kind of this outpouring of what was going on in her head. And between us, we were able to talk her down and say, listen, sweetie, you're going to feel amazing when you get there. Pay it forward. You are going to feel amazing. Go and have some chocolate. Get yourself a tonic, and having a nice glass. I don't know why they have to be called wine glasses, by the way. Why should a drink have jurisdiction over a vessel? But anyway, that's a campaign for another time. And between us, we talked her down. And she calmed right down, and we realised between us that all that was going on was it was her little inner toddler having a tantrum. I want it, but I don't want it. And sometimes when you're left on your own with the inner toddler, that's when it all gets really tricky. So when you connect and share with other people, it makes so much difference. So I'm often asked, this self-care you talk about, is it just selfish? No, it isn't selfish. It's showing up, it's self-esteem, it's taking care of yourself. Are there any questions? If not, I'll carry on, but any questions? I think there's a mic at the back if there are. No? If not, I'll just tell you one other thing that I think is really, really quite important. As I mentioned, I'm a Hay House author. Does anyone know Louise Hay? Louise Hay's an amazing woman. She's passed away now, but she started her first business, which was the Hay House Publishing Company at the age of 60. And Louise's thing is that you absolutely must love yourself. So she used to carry a little mirror in her bra. Should have organised that prop, shouldn't I? So that she could walk around at all times and just whip it out and go, oh, love you, Louise. Which is not very British, I mean, really. She asked us all to do it at an event that I was speaking at, and it's like when we're all in the loos. Love you. Not really. I mean, the truth of it is we're not very good at that because actually most of us don't. And most of us, when we look in the mirror, come out with all kinds of abuse in our head, at least. In fact, I heard someone say if you said out loud what you're thinking, you probably would be had for abuse. Because we've all got this inner critic, right? This little voice that says, who the hell do you think you are to be the one who's different, to think you can get a new job, to go off on that retreat that you're booking and take yourself to London or whatever it is. We've all got that inner critic, that inner voice that tells us you're not enough. Okay? Does anyone recognise that? We all have that voice. And the truth of it is we can't really
get rid of the voice, because it's there to keep us safe. It's there to keep us doing what we've always done, which is why we have to teach our little inner critic and our subconscious mind new tricks and bright spots and new experiences, so that when there's only booze available, you have that amazing memory that says, no, actually, no, well, you're taking care of yourself. And there was that time at the Mindful Drinking Festival when you felt great and you had that, whatever it is. So we have to tame the inner critic. So Louise Hay had this little thing where she insisted that we tell ourselves that we are enough. So I'd like you to stand up just for a moment. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to massage anyone. I hate that. Have you ever had to do that at an event? What the hell? I hate that. They go, oh, turn around, massage the No. So we're going to adopt the power pose. So feet apart, arms by your side, chest up. Psychologists psychologists say this is the cybernetic loop. So if I were to ask you, which I'm not going to, but if I were going to ask you to look down and feel really miserable, it's not actually possible to cry when you're standing up, if you see what I mean. Because we expect everything to go downwards when you're depressed. So when you adopt the power pose, that automatically sends a signal from your body to your brain. I'm strong, I'm powerful, something good is coming, right? So it's always good to do. So after 3, we're all going to say, I am enough. 1, 2, 3. I am enough. Yes, you really are. You may sit down. I said that. I did something similar when I was doing a media training course. It was a bunch of property investors. And they all looked at me as if I was absolutely... And I realised that they thought that I meant they had to walk into their bank manager's office and go, hello, I am enough. Now, you can do it in the loo before you have to do something important. Anyway, any questions? Yes. Hold on just one sec. Sorry, we just want to give you a mic.
You're so loud. I know. It's not really a question, but just thank you very much for what you were saying. It's fantastically affirming, and it's nice to know that there is a community. We all kind of feel very, very similar, and
Great.
It's been a fantastic journey so far. But I had a friend who used to, this was many years ago, now that self-care is a bit of a buzzword, people would say to her, oh, it's just being selfish in that aspect. But she used to retort very cleverly. She used to say, oh, no, it's selfing. Yes. So that's what I've said to myself for a long time. But now actually having gone sober, I understand what it really means. So
brilliant.
That was just a comment.
Thank you. Anyone else? Stunned you all into total silence. But at least you know you are enough.
Was there a particular tipping point for you? Or was it, a big moment? Or did it come over time after a couple of big moments?
Yeah, it came on sort of over years of waking up. And what was interesting when I look back is that I knew something had to change. I absolutely knew. I was getting that voice every single day. But I didn't know how to change because I had no concept of that there was anyone else that felt like I did. No concept of another world. It was just, well, I could maybe go to AA. Well, definitely don't resonate with that. Or stay as I am and accept that I'm the only person. And what's interesting is that I saw a lot of therapists, a lot of GPs, and if I kind of felt safe, I might ask, well, actually, I'm worried I might be drinking too much. If I felt really safe, and of course the answer would always be, well, you look fine, just have an alcohol-free day, yeah? All right, I'll try that. Not. So that's one thing that has to change. Doctors and therapists need to know what to say to grey area drinkers. It's not that they mean any harm. They don't know what to say. But fortunately things are changing. But anyway, to answer your question, it was the fact that I was given Claire Pooley's book to review for Radio 2, to read ahead of an interview. And we never get books to read other than the night before. But I was given 2 weeks over Christmas. And I thought, my God, there's a sign. So I had to read it. And as I started to read that book, this is what I was saying about emotions, not logic. The logic was there, i.e. she needed to stop drinking. But the inspiration was there because I saw in that book, for the very first time in my life, I read, so there's communities, there's alcohol-free drinks, there's life goes on, and not only that, life gets better. So that sowed the seed for me. Yeah. Any other questions at the back there?
It's about change, actually. So it's following on from that. So I work in the advertising industry, and there's a few speakers today. And I actually co-founded the Sober Party Industry Lads and Ladies group called Spill. And I'm going to be speaking at Advertising Week Europe in March, and we're trying to affect change within our industry because it's got a massive drinking problem. So I wondered, within your industry, within radio and journalism, is it also the case, and how are you helping to facilitate change?
Well, it's a great question. And, I think it's a case of when you're in this world that I'm in, I run my community and I do my podcast, and I'm in danger sometimes of thinking everyone feels that way. It's a little bit of a bubble sometimes. But of course, I'm reminded regularly, working at Radio 2 and doing the stuff I do, that not everyone thinks that way at all. But I think you have to tread gently, because I think you can't just steam in and evangelize where it's not wanted. So I think I don't really know the answer to your question, but I think each of us do the bits we can. We spread that little bit of light wherever we can. So now, obviously, if a topic comes up, a lifestyle topic comes up. In the past, the whole conversation would have been about drinking. Well, obviously now I bring in something else wherever I have the opportunity. But I can't push that, because otherwise I'll be fired, So it's a really, really fine line that I think we're all working. But I think just the fact that it's just that thing of, I think somebody said it earlier, all ships rise in high tide. And the more people that are spreading the word, the more of these amazing drinks out there, the better it's going to get. But you've got your work cut out, so enjoy. Okay. Yes. Hold on one second. I'm sure this will have to be the last one, because I'm probably over time. So, no, it's okay. Go ahead.
Hi, I really resonated with what you said about being a grey area drinker, and it's something that I feel a bit frustrated in my industry, because I work in an alcohol recovery service.
Okay.
So we very much deal with, like you say, kind of rock bottom drinkers that you described. Do you think there is a way that our services can reach out more to those grey area drinkers? Because I think there's a whole spectrum of health promotion there that's just not happening.
Absolutely.
It's really frustrating to me.
Yeah,
so.
It's something I'm really passionate about, and I've no idea what I'm going to do with it. I've only done one thing so far, and that is do a survey and a study with the Federation of Holistic Therapists. That's where we started. So we thought, well, let's speak to therapists, because people who have therapeutic treatments of one way or another often will, like I did, share this. So let's at least start there. I don't know how to connect with the medical profession, but there's definitely change needed. So someone like you being aware of it can only be good. And I'm sure, with enough, I'm sure that there'll be ways of doing this. And I want to do a podcast series actually on this whole issue of how the medical profession look at all of this. I need to go. But yeah, thank you for raising it. Thank you so much for coming. And obviously, if you are interested in joining the Sober Club, there is a little monthly fee, but it's very much based on health and well-being. We have a Facebook group attached to it, but you don't have to be part of that. You can if you want to. But there's tons of amazing content with nutritionists and relationship experts, and William Porter often pops up and does stuff for us. There's a whole load of stuff in there. So obviously you'd be very welcome to take a look at that. And the podcast is obviously free to listen to, Alcohol-Free Life. I've had some amazing guests. Oh, and I'm Annie Grace's guest this week. That's cool, isn't it? So, she interviewed me. We had a really lovely chat. So thank you very much, and I'll be around if anyone wants to say hi. Thank you.